Two. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Streggy, and here we are with the Inside Movies Galore crew, and we have a new talker to the group. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to the group, and you'll be able to tell it afterwards too. But just so that it's an introduction.
Okay, I run a YouTube channel, Light and Shadow Cinematic Musings. I also run a blog, which is also Light and Shadow Cinematic Musings. Just review movies, discuss movies, that kind of thing.
Very cool.
And I guess also trying to get back and actually making films. It's kind of why I started the YouTube channel. One of the reasons why, I guess.
Okay. Very cool. Now, tonight we are going to talk about a film from 1988, which has become kind of a cult classic to some, and it actually is on its 30th anniversary this weekend.
It is.
Bear that in mind that there are a lot of cult fans out there for this film. So,
people like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4 for some reason, I guess.
Dustin, I'm going to start with you this time. Why don't you tell me, was this a first-time watch for you?
Yeah, I'd heard the name Slime City before, but I, of course, hadn't seen the movie until you said we were going to do it. So I watched it for the first time today, and then after it ended, it seemed to pick up again, and I was like, huh, there's more to this? Turns out my equipment was just playing it on loop. So for a while I was like, oh, they did something clever with, an extra sequence after the thing, but nope. But at any rate, it was an interesting concept that I think with a stronger budget and better effects, they probably could have gone more places with it. But I think they did an okay job of what they had to work with. It's kind of hard to. It was kind of hard to tack down the plot. It felt kind of like Mood Slime from Ghostbusters 2 possesses people, the movie. Which is more or less what it was, really, wasn't it?
Katie, was this a first-time watch for you?
It was, yes.
And what was your thoughts
on it? In terms of, the type of movie that it was, the type of horror, I kind of dig movies like that, so I appreciated that about it. I thought, production value and stuff was a little, little lower end, where, I kind of imagined what maybe they could have done if they had a little bit more to work with, maybe. Overall, I like the concept. The acting could have been better, I guess, too. That was my other kind of critique on it. I thought the acting, almost it seemed like some people were trying a little too hard. But aside from that, like I said, I really like the story and the type of horror movie that it is. So I enjoyed that about it.
So let me go into a bit of the synopsis here. We have a boyfriend and a girlfriend who are looking for an apartment for him to move into, and for them to explore their relationship a little bit more. And it just so happens to be an apartment on the 3rd floor of this apartment building that is evidently everyone that is involved in the apartment building is seemingly possessed by this slime-like substance. Chris, why don't you tell me, when was the first time that you watched this film?
Probably in the 90s on VHS.
Okay. So what was your first thoughts on the film?
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was really good. I liked the themes, I guess, like addiction, isolation, cult indoctrination, sexual frustration. There's a lot of interesting sequences in the movie. I thought, I don't know.
Okay.
I liked I liked all the sequences with they had, like expressionistic lighting and like the disjointed like furniture and stuff when he was kind of like his mind was going like like those boards in those picture frames.
Okay.
I thought it was kind of expressionistic, kind of, it's interesting how they did that, I thought.
Okay. I'll give you that. Brandon, why don't you tell me, was this a first time watch for you when you watched the film?
Yeah, this actually was the first time for me. I decided to go all in and get the Blu-ray release of it plus the sequel all in one. And when I first watched it, I looked at it much as I would look at a lot of trauma films. Matter of fact, it had a very similar vibe to it. And a lot of the themes were lost to me a little bit at first, I will admit. But after watching it and then watching the sequel, I gained a greater appreciation of it. The plot all came together for me. And after listening to a lot of the commentaries, it was more understanding as to why the plot didn't really come together for me until after the second movie, because it was pretty much that was the case. Is it started out with just a basic idea and then went to move on. So I thought, so after all of that, I gained a fairly decent appreciation of the film, and felt it was a very, I think, a very good cornerstone in the type of horror industry in that era.
Okay. Kabuki Jake, I know that I kind of subjected you to this film, so why don't you tell me what your thoughts were on the film and what you thought about it? And was this a first time watch for you?
It was definitely a first time watch. And I am happy to report that I did not feel ill watching it, which had been a fear in, although I didn't watch every scene very closely. It was, this definitely is not the kind of film I watch very often. And I will almost say that I was relieved at the stilted acting because it did provide some entertainment value. But yes, it was definitely different.
Okay. And I'll go a little further with the synopsis. So so they get into the apartment, and everything seems perfect. It doesn't seem like he thinks that they seem pretty sure that he was going to take the place, and he did. And there just so happens to be some gothic-like characters that are living in his building. Now, what did anyone think about these characters that he kind of came across? There was that one that was digging in the garbage and invited him to his apartment for something of an something of a meal of some sort. What were anyone's thoughts on these characters? Say, for instance, I believe her name was Vicky.
I liked her. I liked her character. I loved her outfits. I got a lot of inspiration from her outfits. I thought, again, the acting could have been better, but there were a few things about her that I liked, and I don't know, probably because she was just like a cool looking chick or whatever. But yeah, I could totally see, like, if this movie was made today with a high budget or something, I could see that character being really cool, dominant, fun, like female character.
Okay. Anyone else have a thought about that particular character, Vicky? Justin?
She seemed to have more depth than I would have expected in this kind of movie. Like, I don't remember a whole lot about her, but it seemed like, how do I put this? I believed her as an actual person as opposed to most of the other characters.
Okay. As far as her character, myself, I noticed that her makeup was kind of goofy. Not that I'm saying that she was bad looking or anything like that, but for some reason, I think her makeup job could have been done a little better.
Oh, I didn't want to be rude, but I thought so too. I was like, that outfit and that makeup, like, oh, let me in there, let me at her.
I mean, the rest of her character was basically fine to me, because she did what she needed to do. She needed to entice the main character and bring her into this world of seduction, while in a sense it was kind of about the house or the apartment as well. And we know that there was a cult that was trying to possess the tenants, so that they could, come out and rule. What was it? The world. Chris, why don't you tell me what did you think about the plot line of Slime City, person?
As far as the actual plot, or just how it played out, or
how it played out, how the plot was, where you had that, had that older lady who eventually was found out that she evidently was the either daughter of whoever was in these ectoplasm souls that these people were eating, correct?
yeah, I mean, I think it kind of showed, in my opinion, I guess, an interesting parallel between, I guess, like the family, family system and the cults. Like the parallels between families having to, behave and think the same, then cults behaving and thinking the same. Because I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting how, she had the father, and then there was a cult. And
And
I thought it was interesting too, how they had like the sort of like the dark side kind of characters. Like they had, I think, is Zachary was the dark side of Alex. He had that dream in black and white, and then there's that lady who played, can't think of the characters' names, but the lady with the dark hair, and then the girlfriend, were it's kind of like they were sort of mirror images of the same person in a way.
Well, they were the same person.
What's that?
they were the same person.
No, I know
literally.
they were, but I know they were. It was the same person. I'm just saying I thought it was interesting because, you know what I'm saying? Like psychologically, like the dark side and then the, I don't know, I thought that was interesting.
Knowing now that the character of Vicky was actually the girl, the woman who played the girlfriend underneath. Knowing that now, after seeing some of the commentaries that I have seen on the film, I mean, now I can see how it had such a low budget. But I enjoyed I enjoyed the cheese and effects, especially in the end. I mean, you've got the head on the floor, and she stabs the head with, and the thing just kind of opens up, and I'm thinking to myself, it's got to be one heck of a mechanism. You know, it's got to be one heck of a, robotic machine that he's got going to because it had a mouth that moved. I mean, and then he had the brain moving across the floor. That was comical. Do you think that there was any stop motion effects there?
I was wondering how they did that, and I don't know. I was like, is it like remote control? Ryan said it was probably just the fishing line pulling it, but it had that like worm effect. So I was really curious how they did that.
I was curious.
That wasn't their first time working with stop motion, though. I mean, the short film that they actually used as the initial basis, the first run of it, also used stop motion as the thing. These little stop motion clay-like worms coming out, which also was kind of creepy and cheesy at the same time. But listening to what they went through in this film, I actually have to say it was it was quite an effort for what it was there. And I have to take that into context. Look at acting, and actually, in these types of films, cheesy acting actually, in my opinion, improves the film. I mean, AAA acting is not something that I would consider to be a boon to a film in this genre.
I would have to agree. As compared to really good acting or really bad acting, I would actually prefer the really bad acting to this kind of a film, because if you had that cool, suave Hollywood actor playing in the basement of whoever's house that they were playing in,
Weekend Detective. Man, there's no detective that acts like that.
Oh, you mean
That's very amusing.
who says that he just wants to move in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brandon, there was something that I remember you mentioning, something about street trash related to this film.
Well, apparently there had been a lot of rumors going around that either it had inspired street trash or street trash had inspired it. And in truth, it was neither case, because both were being conceived around the same time. And they even talked about it. Now there was some overlap between the two and a relationship, from what I got from the commentary. But again, they still both had their own separate genesis.
Okay, so there was a controversy that was involving that either one or the other film ultimately
copied the other.
And whether or not they copied the other, it is not known, or is it known that it's?
Oh, it's.
Well, they were being made at the same time, so it's a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, surprise. I mean, obviously, Street Trash did it better, I think, in terms of. I didn't really understand the whole like green yogurt storyline. Like what it didn't make as much sense as the Street Trash storyline with the Viper. So I don't know. That's my thoughts anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that it wouldn't make sense, because at the time of doing it, they really didn't know. They had an idea of the ending, but they weren't quite sure what they were leading to at any time, it sounds like. But as it went on, and like I say, once seeing the second movie, it really does tie up all the loose ends. It makes most of the story elements make a lot more sense. And to me, it really did improve the film. It turned what I would consider just a mediocre horror film into something that I would say is above mediocre.
Okay. Well, this was a film that I remembered seeing like maybe 8 years ago when I picked it up on its Grindhouse 4 film thing. I didn't see it on VHS like you did, Chris, but I definitely saw the film, and then it was much later that I picked up Slime City Massacre, which I have not actually watched, believe it or not. But I've seen this one, and I liked it a lot for its cheesy effects. I liked the storyline, even though it was kind of weird because the ectoplasm made sense. And I mean the having the cult plot where you had had the leader of the group trying to get inside the body of the main character. That was kind of weird, but go ahead. Someone was going to say something.
Not sure who that was.
If there's anything that you could say to the plot line, what did you gain?
Ha! Plot.
And that's all, folks. That about sums that up.
Well, there was an actual plot, and they knew where they wanted to go with it at the end. And then after Slime City Massacre, it all came together as a basic line revolving around a cult that had gone through mystic practices, that had that there was a reason for them sacrificing themselves. The leader was dying, and after sacrificing themselves, they used this ritual so that they could then be reborn again and again and sort of have an eternal life. And using the ectoplasm in combination with the elixir, they were able to then transform those, basically possess those people unwittingly, and as I say, again, have life eternal.
And
now,
but they had to keep killing to keep them true, didn't they?
Yeah, to keep from deteriorating, they had to keep killing. That's and that's the slime degeneration part. But it also plays to a lot of themes of addiction, of frustration, of just in general issues that can plague people at that age.
Does anyone feel like the slime or the addiction themes in the film might have something to do with that of maybe when people get on drugs that they would stick needles in their arms. That way, since there is a lot of people who have drug addiction, and they do have a hard time getting off of them. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be a crack addict or a person who uses needles or something to that effect. Does anyone think that there is a metaphor in the film that might?
Well, and that's where you could tie it into both street trash, because obviously you were dealing with alcoholics in that film, and even the stuff. Remember how addicted everybody got to the stuff? And it's it kind of gave me that similar feeling as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Seems like we have a lot of people who are stumped about what to say about the film. Did anyone, in fact, enjoy it to an extent where they would probably see it again sometime?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I would like to see the massacre, the Slime City Massacre. I'd like to watch that and see what I think of that.
Okay.
I mean, gosh, what is his name? The guy, the trauma guy, I can never remember his name. I can't remember anybody's name. Which I should remember. God, Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah.
I think he has a cameo in the massacre.
Yeah.
At the beginning. Which it's got a kind of very fun but cheesy beginning to it. And unlike Slime City, which I did feel was very disorganized, I felt that Massacre was much more on point.
Okay. Alrighty. So, did anyone else have anything else to add?
I'm sure the movie is, like Brandon spoke to, I'm sure the movie is stronger once you've seen the sequel to it, because it sounds like they interplay quite a bit. And so I think I would be willing to watch this again after having viewed that sequel to see if it makes a little bit more sense, because some of the stuff was fairly abstract. Like, I had kind of a rough idea of what was supposed to be happening, but there was definitely stuff I missed. I wouldn't mind just flat out revisiting it again too, because like I said, when it started to autoplay a second time, I was like, huh, all right. Like, I didn't feel compelled to just turn it off. So I can see why some people hail it as a cult classic, because it has like that weird vibe that some people just really gravitate towards. I certainly have some movies like that myself. Chainsaw Massacre too.
Yes.
So, well, I think I get it, even though the movie wasn't quite my thing. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Well, at least everybody here is honest. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Chris, to the whole discussion?
I mean, yeah, I definitely see what you're saying as far as like the drug addiction aspect. I guess it's kind of interesting because at that time, I'd say the late '80s, kind of early '90s, there was that whole scare with needles and AIDS and drug addicts and that sort of thing. I'm not, thought it was kind of interesting. It was kind of made around that time. I remember hearing that kind of stuff in the news a lot.
Okay.
And I thought, it was interesting too. How it showed how he's addicted and he was suggestible to be brainwashed and how he was isolated and kind of how he kind of downward spiral from all that. I thought that was, I don't know, I thought it was interesting how they did all that.
Okay. Well, it's interesting seeing everyone's point of view. Jake, is there anything else that you would like to add to the whole ensemble before?
I'll admit I wasn't thinking too deeply into it when I was watching it, but I can definitely see what y'all are saying about the whole thing about the addiction and the way that it could be seen as sort of a almost discreet against addiction in some ways. Especially given the time, the whole war on drugs thing and everything. I will say that, yeah, maybe one day, way down the road, might be worth a revisit with a somewhat different mindset. There were little things that I did like. You mentioned the guy, like he invite him to dinner while he's going through the garbage, and I was like, I'm like, well, if that's not an appetizing invite, I don't know what is.
Let me find it first.
Hold on. Wait,
I'll be over in the evening, definitely.
But yeah, and it was kind of the discussion we were having yesterday about like bad movies and what kind of stuff. Like this was one where they definitely could have given the screenplay 3 or 4 more drafts. They were, but overall, I think that kind of made it a little more watchable in a way because it helped with the humor content. When it comes to horror, I don't scare easily. I can be creeped out, so I appreciate a good creepy movie. But when it's not that, I generally prefer comedy because some humor. Yeah.
I felt this one lacked a little bit in the humor, where it probably could have standed to have a little bit more humor in it.
Mhm.
We sort of watched it like, with doing our own commentary jokes, and I laughed more, at Ryan's jokes than I did at the actual movie. But
That
I
helped.
thought maybe if with a little bit of work, it
Yeah.
could have been really funny.
I had that experience the first time I watched Gone with the Wind. I was bored to tears until we started cracking jokes.
Right.
Or like The Exorcist, where I
That's
just kept
what
like
got me through it.
blacking out.
So you could see this film as one that you could almost like do like a mystery science theater through it. Or
That's pretty much what we did. Yeah, I would say that's about what we did when we watched it, to be quite honest. And I mean there's something to be said about a movie that you can do that to and entertain yourself with. So whatever, like I wasn't expecting to be blown away by the film, and I wasn't, but it was still a fun watch. I don't want that time back in my life or anything.
Yes. Not
Well,
like World War II.
it's easy to say with these kind of films is you cannot take many of these films seriously because honestly many of these are made in pure fun. Some of them have some serious serious underlines, and this one may have some serious underlines with the addiction involved, but it is what it is, and you just got to enjoy the ride as it goes. So, at least to me. So, in any case, did anyone else have anything else to add before we wrap this up this discussion?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the only thing I would say on the end is, though I did appreciate the movie, and I don't usually appreciate gross out movies, which is where I thought it was going. This is worth a watch. Maybe one watch, but a watch.
And I would say that too. I would say that for anyone that's out there who has seen seen the film or wants to see the film, I think it's at least worth a one-time watch. And as Brandon said, I haven't seen the sequel, but I've heard a lot about the sequel. I definitely want to see it, see if it actually ties into the first film or whatnot. I'm sure we can definitely check that out more later down the road.
My opinion would definitely have been different tonight if I had only seen the first film.
Oh.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing to know. So if anyone wants to visit that film down the road, we can definitely check that out. If you want to revisit this later, we can again. It's probably not everyone's favorite, but it's good that we have some half and half here. Because each one of us has a different viewpoint of it. Some of us have it from nostalgia, like Chris. You watched it when it was on VHS, so you watched it in its glory days.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it several times. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it had a lot of interesting stuff in it. So,
and I watched it at least 8 years ago. I think I watched it once with my fiance, and I remember her saying something about how the kitchen was just the colors were just so abstract. There was something about the surroundings of the kitchen that she said, and to this day I remember her saying something about that. So, but I remember this film mostly because when his guts start falling out, you start seeing sausages and mustard and. That's what I remember seeing, and and it's the first film that reminded me that I remember seeing of real special effects. So. but the ones that weren't exactly looking like real guts. But in any case, did anyone else have anything else they wanted to say before I ended this discussion? Nope.
Snakes. There, that's something.
In any case. Alrighty. Well, we'll wrap this up here. Brandon, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're from?
Well, I run a channel called Septum Sen versus the World. I actually work on it, and Kotobuki Jake works with me for a good majority. We cover a lot of physical media, the value of collecting, and in general, just oh yeah, and also I'm also getting ready to put out a channel with my wife that we are running, and I will bring out more of that when that debuts. I'll probably start putting more emphasis on that as well. The main focus, of course, is media, the love of media, and matter of fact, there will be, once I'm finished with the last of the special features on the discs, a full review of the Slime City and Slime City Massacre coming up on the site.
Cool. And Jake, did you want to say anything?
Oh, sure. Of course, I frequently guest on Septum Sen versus the World. I have my own channel as well, Kotobuki Jake, but so far I've only put up one video. My phone died almost as soon as I launched the channel, but I recently got a new one, so it will happen. That one, the focus is more on nature because that's my other big interest, walk in the woods kind of thing. Okay. But definitely enjoy the media as well, and I've also, now that the phone's working again, be doing a few solo channels that Septum will have on his channel, and just otherwise, just do a lot of viewing, a lot of reading, other projects when they come my way. I'm always looking for a movie to come through here, but that doesn't happen very often. But you never know.
Chris, why don't you once again tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, sure. I run a channel, Light and Cinematic Musings. I review movies. I had some DVD/VHS collection videos, mostly movie reviews. I also write a blog, Light and Shadows Cinematic Musings at blogspot.com. And I write reviews there, which are probably more in depth than the videos, because I got to keep the videos short because it doesn't seem like people watch them if you make them longer. So,
I understand. Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm Katie Cadaver from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm a body positive horror artist and alternative model. And you can find me doing my thing on patreon.com/Katie Cadaver or on Instagram at Third Eye Open. That's 3RDEYE0PEN. I am also the makeup artist for the horror punk band Ratbat Spider. You can listen to them at ratbatspider.bandcamp.com. And I'm a dead girl for Dead Girls Dark Coffin Classics horror TV show, and you can watch episodes at vimeo.com/DDCC. And I'm performing and producing with Grindhouse Tees Burlesque Productions. And you can find us on Facebook under Grindhouse Tees. And you can also find some of us out in Delavan, Wisconsin this Saturday at the Arcadia Bar and Grill for the Hell Hath No Fury, A Night with the Devil's Daughters show, presented by the Haunted Harlots. So come out and have a little fun evening with us at the bar. It's also attached to the Baymont Inn and Suites, and they're running specials on rooms and all you can drink and stuff. So it'll be a nice, fun night. And I've also recently become an editor for the Movies Galore site. And you can check out my first review of Adam LaHoulier's The Backslide. And I'm going to be working on some more here soon as things quiet down for me a bit.
Awesome. And Dustin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, where you're from?
Well, I'm Dustin. I live here in Milwaukee. I collect horror anything from figures to movies to masks. I've got kind of a bit of everything at this point. I try to show off my collection on my Instagram page, DHR Hunter, Dustin Horror Hunter. And so I was attending UWM, but now that school's finished, as soon as I can get more of my life put back together, we're going to start updating the Instagram pretty soon, because I think I maybe have only 1% of my collection on there at this time. So it's going to be exciting. I also have editorial powers for Movies Galore of Milwaukee. And again, once things cool down a little bit, I have an insane blitz of movie reviews planned. So we're going to start with Peter Benchley's The Beast, and then we're just going to go nuts on creature features. So I think I have a list of maybe 10 movies I want to review. So it's going to be an exciting summer. Plus, I would like to schedule some interviews with certain relatively larger name personalities, which I won't announce at this time because I need to get in contact with them, but they didn't say no right away.
Awesome. Well, I figured this will be where I get to plug my shit. So my name is David Streggy. I run Inside Movies Galore. Thank you for coming back for a delightful little episode where we discussed this film. And I also run Movies Galore of Milwaukee, which is a blog as well as a group. And I'm also a producer, a small-time producer for Wrestle Massacre, which is coming out in August under the director Brad Twigg. I'm working with Dane Kyle, who skipped this episode for reasons of filmmaking, and working with a few directors in Hungary to I just started helping a film called Spirits in the Dark from Hungary. So definitely check that out when that comes out. Volks, which I mentioned a few weeks ago, maybe months, has just been finished and was just sent to me today, and I just recently watched it, and that's something that I produced. That's going to start circulating some of the horror film festivals. I'm not sure exactly where, but hopefully that'll get some notice or whatnot. So definitely, if you're a filmmaker and you see that name, definitely check it out. In any case, like and subscribe to our channel if you can. For our listeners out there, we definitely are not done. So definitely check out our film discussions. Last week, Dane wanted to talk about I believe a wrestle documentary next week. So I think we're going to do that because he wanted to. If that's okay with the group.
Yeah, I've already got it, so I definitely will. Now that I spent money behind it, I definitely want to do something with it.
So in any case, I'm sure that I'll go back in my messages and send it to you folks. Jake, if you want to be back on the on next week's episode, you're more than welcome to. If you're busy, that's fine too. So you're more than welcome to join us any time. Chris, you as well.
Yeah.
It was definitely entertaining. We won't always have as much silent moments as we did on this episode.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're usually a lot livelier than that. It's just that this time, well, you were there, you know.
But we're definitely not going to be unlively on certain films. Not all of them do we have anything to say about them. Sometimes, sometimes you're trying to find words to describe them the way that you necessarily want. But anyways,
There
No words.
everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Like, share,
night.
subscribe.